Every star chart carried the same note: Earth, uncharted, restricted, avoid at all costs. And yet, every generation, someone laughed, erased the warning, and dared to test it. Not one returned. Until today. Every star chart carried the same inscription. Bold, red letters burned into the margins. Earth, uncharted, restricted, avoid at all costs. For most of the galaxy, it was an unspoken law. For others, it was the best joke in interstellar history. Inside the grand convocation chamber of the Council of Systems, laughter rippled like wildfire. They mock one planet as forbidden, hissed Chancellor Varen, his mandibles clattering as his voice echoed against the marble walls. A single blue rock, and the rest of you cowards treat it as if the void itself will swallow you whole. Polished carapace armor shimmered under the hall lights. His people were conquerors, veterans of burning campaigns that stretched across 8 sectors. The chamber was his stage, and he relished the spotlight. A ripple of uneasy murmurs moved through the gathered delegates, scaled, feathered, silicon-bodied, luminous. Each species represented their worlds with dignity, but most avoided that single red word on the star maps. Most but not all. At the far end of the table, a human sat quietly. Captain Elias Ward looked nothing like the pompous figures around him. No gilded robes, no clattering armor, no halo of status lights. Just a tailored dark suit, crisp, with a faint sheen. His tie was knotted neatly. A steaming cup of tea rested before him. He watched with calm, steady eyes that smiled when his mouth didn't. The Varen Chancellor slammed his claw against the table. Superstition. A convenient myth. A planet left to rot and decay, yet you let it sit untouched, like an idol. A serpentine delegate coiled around her seat, speaking in soft, careful tones. Chancellor, the record is clear. Those who entered Terran orbit did not return. Because they were fools. Varen snapped. Our fleet is not a gaggle of drunk prospectors chasing ghost stories. We will prove the farce for what it is. We will cross into Earth's orbit, and return with relics to show the galaxy. Applause rattled through his followers. The rest of the chamber kept silent. Captain Ward raised his cup, blew on the surface, and took a measured sip. His voice, when it came, was mild, almost conversational. "You'll forgive me," he said, his tone carrying just enough warmth to pass for friendly. "But isn't it odd that entire armadas, equipped with superior weapons and glorious reputations, simply vanish? Not limping back. Not sending desperate pleas. Just silence." Varen sneered. "A human dares to speak of fleets? Your people barely crawl beyond their own moon. You hide behind old warnings because you fear the void." Ward set down his cup. He smiled politely, the kind of smile one gave before saying something sharp. "Fear? No. We simply respect gravity. When something has a pull strong enough, you don't fly into it for fun. Unless, of course, you're volunteering for a physics lesson." A few delegates smothered laughter. Others stiffened at the hidden edge in his words. Varen bristled, mandibles clicking furiously. "Are you threatening me, Terran?" Ward shook his head slowly. "Oh no, Chancellor. Just pointing out the obvious. Treasure hunters rarely live long enough to brag." The chamber stilled. The human hadn't raised his voice. He didn't posture, didn't snarl, didn't make grand declarations. But his words hung heavy, the kind that dug under the skin and stayed there. The serpentine delegate leaned forward. "Captain Ward, are the warnings true? Has your world done this deliberately?" Ward tilted his head, as if considering the weight of the question. He stirred his tea, the tiny spoon clinking. "Deliberately? That's a curious word. Perhaps it's simpler than that. Earth is Earth. It doesn't ask for visitors. When they come uninvited, well..." He let the sentence trail, hanging in the air like a blade. The Chancellor burst into laughter again, loud and brash, breaking the tension. "Bluffs and fairy tales. We will prove otherwise. Our armada departs tonight. Ward didn't laugh. He merely offered the kind of shrug one might give when a child insists fire isn't hot. Then keep your engines warm, he said quietly, eyes locked on the alien warlord. You won't be staying long. The words weren't shouted. They weren't dramatic. But they carried a weight that pressed on the room. A few delegates exchanged uneasy glances. Still, the council voted. Still, the Varen Dominion cheered. Still, the great fleet prepared to breach the invisible line that had been drawn around Earth for centuries. As the chamber emptied, Ward remained seated, finishing his tea. The Serpentine delegate lingered nearby, her golden eyes searching his face. "You're not concerned, human?" she asked softly. Ward glanced at her, then at the dregs swirling at the bottom of his cup. He smiled faintly. "Concern is for the unprepared." She hissed a low breath. "Then what do you call yourself?" Ward stood, adjusting his cuffs with deliberate precision. His shadow stretched across the polished floor, sharper than it should have been. "A host," he said. "And the Varen just invited themselves to dinner." The Varen Dominion fleet cut through the void with theatrical confidence. 40 warships moved in precise formation, hulls gleaming black and crimson under distant starlight. Each vessel bristled with cannons, missile racks, and weapon pods polished for intimidation. On the flagship Dominion's Fist, Chancellor Varen stood on the command deck like a monarch on stage. The chamber lights reflected off his carapace as he spread his arms to the officers assembled. "Behold," he declared, mandibles clicking with satisfaction, "the cursed system itself. A primitive sphere, guarded only by whispers. By tomorrow, its orbit will display our banners." The bridge erupted with applause and cheers. Some pounded armored fists against their chests. Others hissed triumph. To them, Earth was nothing but a fossil planet, a relic from the time before humanity vanished from the galactic stage. A blue-green marble too insignificant to warrant respect. Sensors flickered alive as they pierced Sol's edge. Planetary data streamed onto holographic displays. Mercury, Venus, Mars, catalogued and unremarkable. "Approaching Terran world," the sensor officer announced. The projection shifted. Earth unfolded before them in breathtaking silence, swirled with clouds and oceans, half lit by the curve of dawn. Some of the younger officers gawked. "Almost pretty," one muttered. Varen scoffed. "Dress a corpse in silk, it remains a corpse." A chorus of chuckles followed. Strange relics. The ships adjusted orbit. As they drew closer, the first oddities appeared. "Commander," the sensor officer said, brow furrowed. "Foreign objects detected in high orbit. Metallic, but ancient." The display filled with dots circling Earth's upper atmosphere. Derelict satellites, broken stations, rusting carcasses of ships from centuries past. Some carry the insignia of NASA, ESA, and nations long since forgotten. "What are these?" "Trinkets." Varen sneered. "Relics," another officer said. "Pathetic. They couldn't even clean their skies before dying out." Laughter erupted. The fleet cruised through the debris field, passing near a battered satellite with the word Hubble etched faintly on its side. Its solar panels were cracked, body scarred, yet somehow it still clung to orbit. An ensign chuckled. This was their eye to the stars? "I've seen binoculars sharper." The bridge joined in raucous laughter. But a communications officer frowned. "Sir, some of these derelicts are transmitting." Varen snapped his mandibles. "Old signals. Ignore them." The officer hesitated. "No, Chancellor. The transmissions are recent. Fresh. Coded." The laughter thinned. "Decode them." Static hissed. Then a calm, steady voice filled the chamber. "Trespass noted. Proceed at your own risk." The bridge fell silent. The voice was human. The first flickers. The Chancellor broke the stillness with a bark of derision. "A trick. Automated warnings left behind to frighten fools." He waved his claw. "Continue descent." Engines roared. The fleet shifted closer to Earth, shadows passing across the ocean below. Clouds parted to reveal continents and glowing city clusters, alive, but faintly. Too faint for a primitive corpse world. Then the glitches began. Navigation interference, the helmsman barked. Instruments misaligning. Shields fluctuating. Communications dropping in and out. The bridge lit with flashing red indicators. Yet through the viewports, space appeared calm. Stars twinkled, serene. A junior officer stammered, "Sir, I'm detecting shadows, large masses, approaching fast." On screen, the hollow display flickered to life. For a second, blackness. Then movement, vast, jagged silhouettes sliding between sensor sweeps. Each time they appeared, they vanished before readings locked. Phantoms. They're nothing. Varen snapped. Echoes in the void. Maintain position. But unease rippled through the crew. Some muttered prayers. Others clutched their weapons instinctively, as if blasters could ward off shadows. The voice returns. Without warning, every screen across the fleet went dark. Then they lit with a single figure. A man in a tailored dark suit. Calm, composed. A teacup in hand. Captain Elias Ward. "Good evening," he said politely, as if greeting neighbors rather than invaders. His voice carried across every bridge, every comm line, every private channel. "I trust you enjoyed the tour of our orbit. I apologize for the clutter. We've always been terrible about spring cleaning." Whispers filled the bridge. Some officers froze. Others shook their heads in disbelief. Ward continued, his tone polite but firm. "You were warned. Every chart told you not to come. Every story begged you to reconsider. And yet, here you are. Laughing." The Chancellor bared his fangs. "Identify yourself." Ward sipped his tea. Elias Ward. Host, guide, executioner, if required. The bridge chilled. Ward leaned slightly forward. His eyes seemed to look through every camera, into every officer. "So tell me, Chancellor," he said softly, "was it worth the joke?" Demonstration. Before Varen could respond, the fleet shuddered. A deafening boom echoed through the flagship as shock waves rippled across space. "Rear vessels destroyed," a tactical officer screamed. The hollow display showed 3 ships in the back line, vanished, as if erased. No explosions, no debris, just absence. "Impossible." Ward's voice remained steady. "Not impossible. Demonstrated." That was restraint. The bridge erupted in chaos. Officers shouted conflicting orders. Pilots scrambled to adjust course. Some screamed as comm links filled with the dying cries of crews swallowed in silence. Ward's image remained composed. "I suggest retreat," he said. "But I doubt you'll listen." "You never do." Chancellor's pride. Varen roared, striking the console with his claw. "Arm all weapons. Fire on the planet itself." Gasps filled the room. To strike a planet directly was a war crime under council law. But terror had stripped reason from him. "Do it," he demanded. The fleet charged weapons. Ward sighed faintly. "Predictable." The stars blinked. From the blackness around Earth, colossal shapes emerged. One by one, human ships peeled out of stealth, vast, angular titans of metal, older than the Dominion's history, yet gleaming as if built yesterday. Not one. Not two. Dozens. The human fleet formed a silent wall, surrounding Earth in a protective cage. No engines roared. No weapons glowed. They simply existed, undeniable, immovable. The Dominion bridge fell into suffocating silence. Ward's voice came once more, soft as velvet. "You've trespassed long enough." Closing beat. Panic spread through the Varen fleet. Officers shouted for escape vectors, but navigation screens warped, showing endless loops. The shadows tightened around them. On the flagship, Chancellor Varen froze, mandibles trembling, his arrogance cracking. For the first time, he looked less like a conqueror and more like prey. Ward's last words lingered across every channel. Laugh if you wish. But remember, gravity always wins. The Rim-Ward coalition called it statistical anomaly. The archivists called it folklore contamination. The Draelec warlords, in their usual bluntness, called it human trickery. No matter the label, the phenomenon was undeniable. Fleets that entered Earth's orbit didn't come back. No distress calls, no wreckage, no escape pods drifting in silence. The ships simply vanished. And now, an entire council of alien leaders sat in the gravity-stabilized chamber of the Concordium, arguing over whose people were most at risk of human interference. The air buzzed with overlapping voices, but silence fell when the chamber doors parted and in walked a single human. Captain Elias Ward. Pressed uniform, shoes that clicked softly against the obsidian floor, expression calm enough to unsettle a predator. He carried no visible weapon, yet the chamber seemed to shrink around him. Esteemed delegates, Elias said with that warm, disarming cadence that made aliens lean forward before realizing later he hadn't actually answered their questions. I hope I'm not interrupting. I was told this meeting concerned Earth. Dozens of eyes, compound and otherwise, locked on him. The Draelec warlord spat a gob of acid onto the floor, which hissed and smoked. You, the warlord growled, speak for the planet that erases fleets. Elias smiled. Erase? Oh no. That sounds so deliberate. He raised a hand, as if gently correcting a child's grammar. I think of it more like, well, some places are not safe to wander. You don't blame the forest when someone ignores the sign that says, beware of bears, do you? A ripple of uneasy murmurs circled the chamber. The Valari High Seer leaned forward, translucent tendrils quivering. Then explain this. Navigational charts across multiple species, unconnected by trade or culture, all bear the same warning. Do not enter Earth's orbit. Are you telling us that is coincidence? Hardly, Elias said, his voice honey-smooth. The galaxy is a responsible place. When a cliff drops into an abyss, someone paints a sign. Earth is simply well marked. Then what happens to those who ignore the sign? Elias clasped his hands behind his back and looked genuinely apologetic. They vanish. It was not the answer the council wanted, but it was the only one he gave. The Draelec warlord slammed a clawed fist against the table. We are not frightened by ghost stories. If Earth hides weapons, we will uncover them. Elias tilted his head. Please, by all means, try. We've always admired optimism. The sarcasm was there, soft, woven into politeness like a needle hidden in silk. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably, realizing too late that the human wasn't mocking. He was warning. Behind the calm words, reality outside the chamber was already unraveling. The Kareth Expeditionary Fleet, 30 ships strong, had just entered the boundary of Earth's restricted zone. Their command transmission, loud, arrogant, broadcast across all frequencies, declared they would prove once and for all that humans guarded nothing but an empty husk of a planet. The signal played across the council's holoscreens as Elias stood among them. The Kareth commander, all chitin and ceremonial blades, sneered at the camera. See, human? Your phantom tales do not frighten us. We are here, and your orbit is quiet. Then the feed distorted. Static hissed. The Kareth commander's mandibles twitched in irritation, shouting for his engineers. The background shifted, a blur of motion, something large and angular eclipsing the stars. The sound cut out. The image flickered, then vanished entirely. 30 ships gone. The chamber was silent, save for the faint hum of stabilizers. Elias exhaled slowly. Such a shame. Brave souls, I'm sure. What did you do? The Draelec roared, claws digging gouges into the table. Elias didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. I warned you. I warn everyone. The map isn't wrong. The council broke into chaos. The archivists began muttering equations, desperate to quantify the loss. The Valari seer whispered prayers. The Draelec threatened war, though his eyes, slit pupils darting, betrayed the truth, fear. Elias simply stood there, letting the storm rage around him. Calm, patient, the way a poker player watches the table fold. Finally, the seer's tendrils curled inward. This is not chance. It is design. Something in your orbit hunts. Elias finally allowed a hint of steel into his tone. Perhaps. Or perhaps it defends. Tell me, seer, when your people build sanctuaries, do you not protect them from intruders? The implication landed. The delegates exchanged uneasy glances. But beneath the tension, humor slipped in, sharp and biting. The Drelek bared his fangs. Your people hide behind tricks and shadows. You cannot fight us directly. Elias arched an eyebrow. Funny. Every species that said that isn't here to repeat it. The chamber stilled again, laughter choking in throats where it might have been. Outside, the truth brewed like a storm. Earth's orbit was not empty. It was a trap layered in centuries of deception, built by human hands that smiled while laying wires under the floorboards. Cloaked platforms drifted in high orbit, carrying weapons that had names like Heaven's Door and The Final Argument. AI sentinels watched silently, activating only when foreign drives broke the invisible line. Fleets didn't return because they never had the chance to leave. Humans hadn't lied. They hadn't bluffed. They simply let the galaxy test the warning for themselves. And still, arrogant fleets kept trying. The council chamber settled into wary quiet. All eyes returned to Elias. So, he said softly, do you wish to keep testing the map? Or shall we agree that Earth's orbit is closed? No one spoke. The silence was louder than thunder. The chamber felt colder now. Delegates whispered in their native tongues, voices taut with dread. The hollow feed of the Kareth fleet's disappearance still hung like a phantom in the air, but no one dared replay it. Elias Ward hadn't moved. He stood with hands folded behind his back, posture relaxed, as if presiding over a board meeting rather than the collapse of 30 warships. The Valari High Seer finally broke the silence. This is unnatural. No defense grid erases fleets without leaving wreckage. What hides in your orbit, human? Elias considered his words, then smiled. Nothing hides. Everything is exactly where it should be. The Drelek warlord slammed a clawed fist into the table. Enough riddles. If Earth holds weapons, name them. If not, then confess your sorcery. That earned Elias's first chuckle of the night. A light, almost friendly sound. Sorcery? No. Just foresight. You see, while most of you fought over borders and shipping lanes, we prepared for something else entirely. The archivist delegate leaned forward, voice dry and brittle. Prepared? For what? Elias's smile faded, replaced by calm gravity. For you. All of you. The chamber erupted, outrage, denial, confusion. Elias didn't flinch. He let their voices clash and tumble, waited until the noise collapsed under its own weight. Then he spoke again, quiet but razor-edged. Every map that warns against Earth is correct. Not because of superstition. Not because of coincidence. Because we put the warnings there. The seer recoiled. Impossible. No single species could influence so many star charts. Elias tilted his head. You think too narrowly. Humans travel. We trade. We, accidentally, leave fragments of information behind. A rumor here, a cautionary tale there. Over centuries, legends calcify into fact. And soon enough, every chartmaker includes the same warning: do not enter Earth's orbit. The archivist's voice trembled. You seeded the myth deliberately. Exactly. A myth is the most effective defense. You don't need to fight fleets if they scare themselves into retreating. Elias's eyes glinted with a quiet pride. But myths only work on the wise. The arrogant? They need demonstrations. He tapped a command into the panel before him. A hollow map bloomed, showing Earth's orbit. Not empty, as the galaxy assumed, but alive with geometry, satellites, cloaked arrays, vast constructs hidden in plain sight. The Drelek growled. "What are those?" Elias answered without hesitation. "Insurance. A lattice of autonomous defense platforms, seeded centuries ago. Each one designed to activate only against intruders. Fleets that cross the boundary are erased, not as punishment, but as a lesson." The Valerie Seer's voice was barely a whisper. "A lesson in what?" "That humanity doesn't forget." For the first time, the mask slipped. Elias's tone hardened, polite veneer cracking to reveal steel beneath. "When Earth was young, your kind came in raids, abductions, experiments, skirmishes you never wrote in your histories. You thought us too primitive to notice. But humans notice. We remember. And we prepare. Always." He leaned forward slightly, eyes sweeping the chamber. "Generations passed. We reached the stars. We didn't declare war. We didn't chase revenge. Instead, we waited. We made sure the next time you came, you'd never leave." The Seer's tendrils quivered. "You cannot mean every disappearance, every fleet." "Yes." Elias's voice was sharp now. "Every fleet that ignored the warnings, every commander who thought Earth was prey. None returned. Not because we sought conquest, but because we refused to be prey ever again." The room fell silent, heavy with realization. Then Elias's humor returned, thin but cutting. "Of course, you could call it paranoia. We prefer to call it preventative diplomacy." The archivist croaked, "This is monstrous." Elias smiled faintly. "So is survival." The Drelek slammed the table again, but this time with less certainty. "If this is true, then you threaten the entire galaxy." Elias shook his head. "Not threaten. Balance. We don't invade. We don't expand. We hold one line only, Earth's orbit. Cross it and you vanish. Stay away and nothing happens. Simple. Even mercenaries understand boundaries." The warlord bristled, but said nothing. The Seer whispered, "Then why reveal this now? If fear has worked for centuries, why unmask the truth?" Elias straightened, expression unreadable. "Because too many of you stopped fearing. Too many dismissed the warnings as old superstition. And because, perhaps, it's time the galaxy understood what those vanishings really mean." He paused, then spoke with deliberate weight. "Earth does not need a fleet to conquer. Our weapon is patience. We watched your empires rise and collapse. We learned from your mistakes. And while you squabbled over scraps, we laid the foundation for something you've never faced, a trap designed not for enemies, but for arrogance itself." The words struck like a hammer. Delegates shifted in their seats, suddenly aware of the gulf between the polite man before them and the predator coiled beneath the skin. Then Elias did something unexpected. He smiled again, warm, almost casual. "Now, don't mistake me. We're not unreasonable. We like neighbors. We enjoy trade. We even tell good jokes, if you stick around long enough to hear them. But we have one house rule. A very simple one." His voice dropped, soft as a blade sliding free of its sheath. "No patrol enters Terran space. No fleet tests Earth's orbit. Ever." The weight of the declaration hung in the chamber, heavier than any gun. The Valerie Seer bowed her head. "And if we comply? Then we'll be the friendliest species you've ever met," Elias said, grin returning. "We'll share music, recipes, even baseball if you can handle the rules. But if you ignore the map..." His eyes hardened, the last trace of humor burning away. "Then you vanish. Simple as that." The council sat in frozen silence. None dared argue further. The lesson had been delivered, the trap revealed. Elias gave a courteous bow, as if concluding a lecture rather than threatening entire civilizations. "Thank you for your time, esteemed delegates. I believe this session is adjourned." With that, he turned and walked out, footsteps echoing in the stunned chamber. Behind him, alien leaders stared at one another, their fear unspoken but palpable. The myth was no longer myth. The warning on every map was no longer a legend. It was law. And across the galaxy, one truth spread like wildfire. Earth wasn't dangerous because it was hidden. Earth was dangerous because it had always been watching.